50 years ago, if you wanted to go to space,
Yeah.
you had to be this highly specialized military test pilot.
Right, with like a massive background in advanced aeronautics.
Exactly. And today, a 43-year-old police officer, who's also a mother of three, literally just packed her bags for orbit.
It's incredible.
It really is. The boundaries of what we, consider impossible are just collapsing in real time, and we actually have the receipts today, so welcome to the deep dive.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
Yeah, today we are looking at this, just a massive stack of 8 incredible stories from the May 27, 2026 edition of Bright News Daily.
It really is a phenomenal collection of reports, I have to say. And when you look at all 8 of these pieces together, there's a very clear theme that emerges.
Which is?
We're looking at how humanity, and actually in some cases nature itself, is actively shattering limitations, just completely defying the odds across like totally different arenas.
Right, because we are talking about boundaries falling in outer space inside our own immune systems.
Across expanding deserts, too.
Yeah, and even right down to the tennis court. Okay, let's unpack this.
So, to set the stage for you, my core belief going into this deep dive is that history isn't just made by, giant faceless institutions.
Or massive geopolitical forces.
Exactly. History is made by underdogs. It's made by persistent volunteers. And honestly, very often it's made by unexpected surprises lurking in the dark.
Which we'll get to later with the...
Yeah, whether that's the literal dark of the deep ocean or just the blind spots of our own expectations.
Man, that's a great way to look at it. Well, let's start with the literal highest aspirations we have, which is expanding. Who gets to go to space? And how we actually plan to stay there.
Space is a great starting point for this.
Right. So according to the Bright News Daily reports, NASA is announcing the crew for Artemis III today at 11 a.m. Eastern.
Which is huge.
Huge. This is the mission that will return humans to the moon's surface for the first time since Apollo 17, which is back in 1972.
A very long time ago.
Right. And the headline here is that this crew will feature the first woman and the first person of color to ever walk on the lunar surface.
Which is obviously a massive cultural milestone. But the sources point out that the technological shift is equally profound.
How so?
Well, Artemis III is not a, plant a flag and go home operation. It is explicitly designed as a stepping stone to Mars.
Right. And the tech they're highlighting totally proves that. I mean, they are showcasing the Blue Origin Mark I lunar lander, and this thing called the Astrolab crewed lunar rover.
Yes, the new hardware.
But, okay, let me stop you here, because I read these specs, I want to make sure I actually understand the mechanics of it.
Sure.
How does this equipment fundamentally differ from what we used in the Apollo missions?
Yeah.
I mean, is it just like a modernized dune buggy and a sleeker lander?
No, not at all. What's fascinating here is this shift in architectural philosophy.
Okay.
The Apollo landers were effectively lifeboats.
Lifeboats.
Yeah. They were designed to keep 2 guys alive for a couple of days with absolutely zero margin for error.
Right, just get down and get back up.
Exactly. But the Blue Origin Mark I, on the other hand, is a cargo beast. It's designed to deliver massive payloads of infrastructure to the lunar surface.
Wow. Wow.
And that Astrolab rover, it isn't just a vehicle for, joyriding around craters. It's a modular construction platform. It's actually equipped with robotic arms.
Yeah, so it's essentially like a lunar backhoe.
Exactly. It's a tractor. You use the Mark I to drop the heavy building materials, and you use the Astrolab to start physically assembling a base.
That's wild.
We're moving from the pioneer phase to the logistics phase.
Which actually brings us perfectly to this incredible parallel story out of Hong Kong.
Oh, yes, Lai's story.
Right, the launch of Lai Guangying. She's known simply as Lai, and she is a 43-year-old police officer.
And a mother of 3.
A mother of 3. And she just became Hong Kong's first ever astronaut.
It's an amazing achievement.
She's serving as a payload scientist on a Chinese crewed mission. And the reports are describing it as this massive, emotional, civic milestone for Hong Kong.
And see, this is exactly what happens when space shifts from a sprint to a sustainable marathon.
What do you mean?
Well, in the mid-20th century, the space race was super exclusive. It was all about proving military dominance.
Right.
But when you're building long-term infrastructure, you don't just need test pilots with nerves of steel anymore. You need payload scientists. You need engineers. You need people who, frankly, understand systems and logistics.
It really feels like the evolution of urban development.
That's a good way to put it.
Like, the Apollo missions were like pitching a highly experimental tent on a mountain peak, right?
Right.
Just to prove you could survive the night without freezing.
Yeah, totally.
But Artemis, with its cargo landers and construction rovers combined with Lai's mission, that's the equivalent of surveying a permanent neighborhood.
Exactly.
You're laying down the plumbing so that working moms and civil servants can actually set up shop and get to work up there.
And that structural groundwork fundamentally changes the psychology of the public, too. When space includes a 43-year-old civil servant who is balancing, payload science with the realities of raising 3 kids,
Right.
the cosmos suddenly feels accessible to the everyday person. It's not just for superheroes anymore.
That's such a good point.
Yeah.
But, that kind of grueling long-term infrastructure building isn't just happening in the literal vacuum of space.
No, it's not.
Some of our most hard-won victories are actually happening in the microscopic universes inside our own bodies. Because the medical milestones in today's deep dive are just wild.
They really are. And they showcase 2 completely different strategies for defying the odds.
Yeah, the sources highlight 2 major medical stories. First, scientists have made a massive breakthrough toward a, quote, functional cure for HIV.
Which affects a lot of people.
More than 38 million people living with HIV globally. And this means the immune system could potentially suppress the virus indefinitely.
Of that daily medication.
Right, without the daily pills.
Hmm.
And the second story is about guinea worm disease.
An ancient parasite.
Literally referenced in ancient Egyptian texts. But in 2025, the global number of human cases reached an all-time low of exactly 10.
10 in the whole world.
10 cases in the entire world. It has been driven to the absolute brink of extinction by the Carter Center's decades-long eradication campaign.
They are 2 just incredible achievements, but I really want to look at the mechanisms behind them.
Okay.
Because they represent, the 2 absolute extremes of modern medicine.
Actually, before you break down the mechanisms, I kind of want to push back on the terminology the sources use here.
Sure, go for it.
The report specifically notes that for HIV, a full eradication cure remains elusive.
Mm-hmm.
But this functional cure is still considered a massive miracle.
Right.
But, a functional cure basically just means making the body manage the virus, right?
Essentially, yes.
So why is a ceasefire treated with the exact same awe as the literal full eradication of guinea worm?
Yeah.
Why is managing it a miracle?
It's a very fair question. And to answer it, we have to look at the biology of how HIV actually operates.
Okay, lay it on me.
So, wiping HIV completely off the map, what we'd call a sterilizing cure, is biochemically incredibly difficult.
Because it mutates.
Well, yes, but more importantly, because the virus actually integrates its own genetic code into the DNA of the host's cells.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it hides in these deep reservoirs where standard drugs literally can't find it.
So you can't just, hunt it down and kill it without potentially destroying the host cell itself.
Exactly. So a functional cure doesn't try to rip the virus out of your DNA.
What does it do then?
Instead, it works by training your immune system, specifically boosting these things called killer T cells, to form a permanent microscopic cage around those dormant virus reservoirs.
A microscopic cage.
Right. So the virus still technically exists in your body,
Good.
but it's locked down so tightly that it cannot replicate, it cannot harm you, and you do not need daily antiviral pills to keep it at bay.
That's amazing.
Functionally, the disease is rendered completely irrelevant to your daily life.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's this highly engineered, high-tech microscopic cage.
Yeah, and if we connect this to the bigger picture, contrast that highly engineered cellular breakthrough with the guinea worm victory.
Right, because they are so different.
Completely different. Guinea worm isn't a high-tech cellular puzzle. It is a grueling, agonizing, waterborne parasite.
Ugh.
And you don't beat it in a sterile laboratory with a sudden genetic breakthrough.
No, the sources mentioned it was a village-by-village campaign.
Yes, and the logistics of that are just staggering. The guinea worm relies on microscopic water fleas to carry its larvae.
Okay.
So when people drink stagnant water, they ingest the fleas, and the worm grows inside the human body.
That is horrifying.
It really is. But to break that cycle, the Carter Center didn't invent some complex mRNA vaccine.
What did they do?
They engineered a marathon of human endurance. They went to thousands of remote villages and literally just distributed simple fine mesh cloths to filter the water fleas out of the drinking water.
Wait, so the technology that brought a thousands of years old parasite to the brink of extinction was essentially just a specialized coffee filter.
A filter and an unprecedented tracking system. They
Wow.
had to educate communities. They had to track every single infection. They had to ensure that the infected individuals didn't enter the water supply to release new larvae.
Right, because that restarts the cycle.
Exactly. And they had to do this flawlessly year after year for decades.
That is just, it's a staggering volume of willpower.
It really is.
10 cases left out of 8 billion people on Earth. I mean, one victory is won under a microscope by researchers pushing the very boundaries of immunology,
Right.
and the other is won in the dirt, village by village, through sheer unyielding human persistence.
But both require a complete refusal to accept the limitations placed on human health.
Absolutely. And that, village by village persistence isn't just effective against microscopic parasites. It's the exact same muscle memory humanity is using to heal the planet on a massive scale.
Which brings us to the environmental stories.
Yes, the environmental stories in our stack.
This is where we see the sociology of mobilization really take center stage.
So in China's Gansu corridor, specifically in Menking County, there was this massive crisis with advancing desertification.
The desert taking over.
Right. The desert was literally swallowing the land due to severe, sustained drought. And one man posted a grassroots campaign warning about this online.
Just one guy.
Just one guy. And the response was astonishing. 30,000 volunteers from cities all across China spontaneously showed up.
And these are urbanites, right?
Yes.
People accustomed to concrete, high-speed rail, and convenience, just traveling out to a harsh, unforgiving drought zone.
The report explicitly says many of them had never planted a tree in their lives.
I believe it.
But together, they planted 1 million trees in one of the most drought-affected regions on the planet.
Incredible.
And then on the flip side of the world, in Wellington, New Zealand, the beloved kiwi bird, which is, flightless and nocturnal, has returned to the nation's capital.
After more than 100 years.
Over a century of being completely absent.
Now, planting 1 million trees or bringing back a locally extinct bird sounds wonderfully poetic.
It does.
But the actual mechanics of these two environmental wins, it's brutal manual labor.
Let's get into the how then, because I'm trying to picture this. How does a crowd of city dwellers planting trees actually stop a desert?
It's a great question.
I imagine you can't just stick a sapling in dry sand and expect the desert to retreat, right?
You're exactly right. Desertification is a vicious feedback loop.
Okay.
When the soil gets too dry, it turns to dust and blows away.
Right.
That leaves nothing for new plants to hold on to, which makes the area even drier.
Right, it just accelerates.
Exactly. So what those 30,000 volunteers were doing wasn't just like gardening, they were installing biological rebar.
Biological rebar, I like that.
Yeah, think about it. The root systems of those million trees physically bind the loose sand and soil together, preventing it from blowing away.
So literally holding the ground in place.
Yes. And above ground, the canopy of the trees casts shade, which lowers the ground temperature. And it actually traps morning dew and moisture, creating a whole new microclimate.
Wow.
That single million tree push mechanically breaks the feedback loop of the drought.
That's brilliant. And what about the kiwi bird in New Zealand?
Right.
Forces credit predator-free zones and sustained public conservation for its return after a century. But Wellington is a modern capital city.
Very much so.
So how do you create a predator-free zone in the middle of a modern urban sprawl?
This raises an important question about how we typically view environmentalism.
What do you mean?
Well, we usually think of conservation as this top-down mandate, right? Like a massive national park fenced off far, far away from humans.
Right, like Yellowstone or something.
Exactly. But New Zealand did the exact opposite. The community essentially crowdsourced the pest control.
Crowdsourced pest control.
Yeah. The kiwi bird is flightless, which made it highly vulnerable to invasive predators like stoats, rats, and ferrets that were introduced by European settlers centuries ago.
Because the kiwi evolves without ground predators.
Yeah.
Right? So it had no defense mechanisms.
Precisely. It was a sitting duck, basically. So to bring the kiwi back to Wellington, local neighborhoods organized massive, coordinated trapping networks.
In the city.
In the city. Everyday citizens took responsibility for monitoring traps in their own backyards, in local parks, around the perimeter of the city.
Oh, wow.
They systematically cleared the urban area of invasive predators, literally mile by mile, until it was safe enough for the kiwi to roam free again.
That is wild.
Yeah.
So in the Gansu corridor, you have city dwellers traveling out to the harsh desert to manually stitch the soil back together.
Right.
And in Wellington, You have an ancient wild bird adapting to an urban capital because the citizens basically turn their backyards into a sanctuary.
It's beautiful.
We always treat cities and nature as mortal enemies, but these stories completely blur that boundary.
They do. It proves that spontaneous, massive community action might actually be our most powerful tool for ecological recovery.
So we've spent a lot of time marveling at what massive crowds can do,
Yeah.
whether it's 30,000 tree planters or an entire city of bird trappers.
Yeah, collective action.
But sometimes the most extraordinary breakthroughs happen when you are completely isolated.
Operating under crushing pressure.
Exactly. Operating where nobody is looking at you, and honestly, nobody expects you to survive, let alone win.
The transition from the massive crowd to the absolute underdog.
Yes. And this brings us to the final two stories from our source stack, which, on the surface, seem totally unrelated.
Okay.
But they share this incredible biological and psychological through line.
I'm intrigued.
First, the French Open of 2026 is apparently the year of the underdog.
Ah, tennis?
Yes, tennis. 23-year-old Polish player Magdalena Frech, nicknamed Magic Maja, was ranked outside the top 30. But she just pulled off a massive upset, beating the reigning Olympic champion Zhang Qinwen in straight sets on the red clay of Paris.
Operating completely outside the spotlight.
Yes. And she's not the only one.
Yeah.
American Nishesh Basavaredi stunned the world number 4, Taylor Fritz.
Wow.
Right. And when reporters asked Basavaredi about his mindset, he said, and I quote, "There are no expectations," and that's exactly how I like it.
No expectations. That's key.
Now hold that psychological state in your mind, because we are going from the red clay of Paris to the deep freezing waters of the Galapagos.
I am very curious to see how you're going to bridge professional tennis and marine biology.
Just bear with me. Scientists exploring the Galapagos deep sea, nearly 6,000 feet below the surface,
That's incredibly deep.
have discovered a brand new species. It is a tiny, mysterious, electric blue octopus.
Okay.
And researchers are totally puzzled because it has this vibrant electric coloring. But it lives at crushing depths in a completely dark, unexplored ecosystem.
Where color shouldn't matter.
Right. You wouldn't think vibrant visual color even serves a purpose down there in the pitch black.
Okay, so you have a tennis player taking down an Olympic champion and an electric blue octopus surviving at 6,000 feet below sea level.
Here's where it gets really interesting. I want to ask you about the mechanics of pressure, both literal and psychological.
Okay, lay it out.
Because whether it is the intense, suffocating media pressure on center court at Roland Garros,
Right.
or the literal crushing oceanic pressure 6,000 feet down, is there an evolutionary advantage to having zero expectations placed upon you?
Oh, that's a great question.
Does operating in the dark corners where nobody is looking actually free you up to be brilliant?
That is a really fascinating synthesis. Let's look at the biology of the octopus first, because it perfectly mirrors the psychology of the athlete.
Oh, so?
At 6,000 feet below the surface, the physical pressure is immense. I mean, it can literally crush human-made submersible.
Just flatten them.
Right. To survive there, deep-sea organisms have to fundamentally alter the structure of their proteins so their cells don't just collapse.
So the environment literally forces them to build a completely different internal architecture.
Yes. And as for the electric blue color, in a completely dark ecosystem, that vibrant coloration likely isn't a visual display for mating or camouflage.
Like it would be on a coral reef.
Exactly. It might be a biochemical byproduct of the unique proteins it needs to survive the cold and pressure.
Oh, interesting.
Or it could be a specialized form of bioluminescence for luring prey in the absolute pitch black.
Okay.
The point is, because this octopus evolved in a dark, ignored corner of the world, entirely free from the rules and pressures of the sunlit ocean above,
Right.
it developed a survival mechanism that completely puzzles the surface dwellers.
Because it wasn't burdened by the expectations of the reef.
Exactly. And translating that to the tennis court, the concept of expectations acts as a psychological gravity.
Psychological grab.
Think about it. When you are the reigning Olympic champion or the world number 4, every single shot you take is scrutinized.
By millions of people.
The expectation to win becomes a heavy burden. You start playing not to lose.
You tighten up.
Yeah.
Your biological architecture, like your muscles, they literally get rigid under the pressure of the crowd.
Yes. But when you are the underdog, when you are unranked, unseen, operating in the metaphorical deep sea of the tournament bracket,
Yeah.
you are operating without that gravity. You have the freedom to take massive risks, to swing freely, to experiment.
Because you have nothing to lose.
You are uninhibited. If you fail, well, the world expected you to fail anyway. But if you thrive in that lack of expectation, the results look like magic to the people watching from the top tier.
Magic Masia.
Exactly. The greatness emerges precisely because they were left alone in the dark to develop their strengths without the interference of outside expectations.
Wow. Whether as an athlete or a deep-sea cephalopod, the principle is the same.
It really is. The margins, the extremes, the places where nobody is paying attention, that is the exact laboratory where the most radical adaptations take place.
Man. So what does this all mean? We have covered some serious ground today.
We really have.
We started with the Artemis III crew and a working mother from Hong Kong, proving that the boundary of space is expanding from this elite sprint into a diverse working neighborhood.
Yep.
We looked at researchers building a microscopic cage to outsmart HIV, and public health workers using fine mesh filters to just walk the guinea worm into extinction.
And then we examined the sheer logistical willpower of 30,000 urbanites rolling back a desert in the Gansu corridor.
Unbelievable.
In a modern capital city reorganizing its own backyards to welcome back a bird it hadn't seen in a century.
And finally, we saw underdogs proving that isolation and crushing pressure can actually be the exact ingredients needed to produce brilliance.
You know, when you look at all 8 of these stories side by side, a very empowering picture emerges for you, the listener.
Totally.
Defying expectations and pushing past historical limits isn't some rare anomaly. It's a fundamental adaptation shared by all humans and by nature alike.
It's what we do.
Right. The capacity to break out of the box, to redesign the architecture of what is possible, is built into our very DNA.
It really is. It is the most natural thing in the world to shatter a limitation. And that actually brings us to the end of our deep dive today.
It's been a fun one.
But, we've spent all this time talking about how we break past limits when the pressure is on, or when the crowd shows up, or when the science finally clicks.
Right.
And it leaves you with a final, slightly different question to chew on.
Which is?
As we continuously alter our environment, rewrite our own cellular biology, and permanently move into the neighborhood of the cosmos, are we actually eliminating our limits?
Oh, wow.
Or, by pushing the boundaries so far out, are we just inventing an entirely new, vastly more complicated set of limits for the next generation to fight against?
That's a deep thought.
It is something to ponder as you go about your day. Thanks for joining us, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.